Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight with us. I'm Andrei Lukic. I'm the co-founder of the Center for Intelligent Machines, and I'm really excited to be here with you to kickstart our digital event series. We're gonna start the evening, and we're gonna start our series with a software development career discussion where we're gonna hopefully answer all your questions, or as much as possible from your questions, about how you can get better and how you can progress in your software development career. Our speaker for tonight's event is Vlad Cristea. I met Vlad more than a year ago when we both worked on the same project. And when we decided to run this event, we couldn't think of anyone else to hold it and to present it than Vlad, because as you'll see later, his career is nothing what you would expect. He doesn't have a formal training, or he didn't came from the formal route of software development or software engineer, but he's now in his position of a senior developer, and he's doing a lot of interesting things on the side. So without further ado, I will let Vlad introduce himself and also give you a bit of background about how he's got here, and then we can start our discussion.
Hey guys, I'm Vlad Cristea, and I'm a software engineer at Deutsche Bank. And to be honest, as Andrei said, and thank you very much for the kind introduction, by the way, I don't think I got here the traditional way. I heard of stories of people that actually enjoy or know what they want to do for the rest of their lives when they're 5 or something. I think I wanted to be an astronaut when I was 5. Definitely not an astronaut. You can look at me. I don't wear a helmet. Uh, so the reason I'm telling you this is because uh, generally the success stories you see on the market, the success stories I've seen on the market, are people that know that they wanted to be a programmer since they were 5 and they worked for it their entire lives. They started in high school with projects and the typical story of getting there. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's actually the best way of getting there because it's a natural way of getting there. But it wasn't the case for me. And the reason why I decided to answer these questions and to do this collaboration with CMI is because at a certain point after being HR, let me see what else. So I was a game tester, and then I worked in a call center, and then I worked in HR, and then I traded on the stock market. Then I had a bar, and then finally, last but not least, I decided to be a programmer. And I'm saying programmer because I think software engineer sounds way too big, if you know what I mean. So what I let's skip forward to the point where I decided to start programming. The reason why I did it was because everything I did try in before this, I didn't do out of passion. I kind of wanted to test it and to see what fits me without overlooking what was in front of my face, which is my biggest passion, IT in general and programming in particular. So I was 25, yes, 25. No, 26. I just turned 26 when I decided I want to do this for the rest of my life. I know it sounds weird and corny, but bear with me. And the only thing I knew was how to write basic code. Because I did some courses when I was little. My parents took me to some classes, programming classes. I didn't really understand why. And I thank them for that, by the way. And some experience with I don't know, scripting, making bots for random games so I don't have to farm or something. So I didn't do anything in a professional manner. So after I decided to pursue a career in programming, I started learning it, obviously. So what did I do? Yeah, so I started learning the technical part, obviously. And I went on plural sites. There are a million of these sites around where you have a lot of technical knowledge. So my point in this conversation, in this live, is for us to discuss about the things that are not being told in the technical courses. For example, I learned Java. Java was my first formal language that I learned. Besides, before that, I only did, like, as I said, random things. So I learned Java SE, more exact, version 8. And I finished learning it. I finished the course. I did the exercises in the course. And I thought I knew how to program. Obviously, I didn't, but I thought I knew. And I got a question. What do I do now? What do I have to do? Like, okay, I know how to work in Java SE. Now, what am I going to do next? And the fact that there was nobody to answer my question almost made me quit. Actually, there are a million questions which also almost made me quit my career before it even started. Because for me, the not having answers to those questions literally left me blind. I didn't know what to do. Luckily, I contacted some old friends. I don't like to call them friends because they're not that close, obviously. So there are some old acquaintances of mine which worked as programmers, and they kind of gave me a pseudo training plan. It was not that good, actually. And it got me to basically get an answer for my questions by myself. And I hope that with this live, I can actually help you not have to answer those things by yourself. These questions can vary from, well, pretty much how do I get into the industry? Help, I'm 30 and don't know how to become a programmer. To actually, I've been a programmer in the same company for 3 years, and I feel like my career is in a stop. Like, I don't know the exact word in English, excuse me, but I think you know what I mean. If not, I'll try to explain it better. Let me think. So I'm stuck in my career. My career is stuck. That's the word. And before we get to the questions, I would actually like to, I didn't bore you guys. And I wanna mention that I did say that you can find technical things online. I didn't focus on them, not because they're not important. They're just as important as as the soft skills, as the things that nobody's teaching you. Without having the technical background, you can't pretty much do anything because you can't code, and that's the career we're talking about. But it is important. It is very important, and I want just to make this clear. So I think, Andre, that we can move to questions. I think I'm done with with my introduction, and hope I didn't really go too long.
Okay, so yeah, just to remind everyone that came in late, guys, if you have any questions, please mention them in the chat. And I know until you guys do that, when you guys subscribed, we had a question on the forum where we were asking you what's your biggest issue and why you want to be involved into this event. So we had a look at what most of you said. Just let's start with the most common question from the questionnaire we sent out to people. And it's basically, okay, I've done an education, I have an education in software engineering, development, programming, whatever you want to call it, either formal or non-formal. How do I find a job? Okay, I know all these things now. I can code. I've done a bit of coding. I've worked on some projects, but I want to get real now and get into this business. How do I do that?
Wow, so that no cutting me some slack, directly into the hard questions. So I don't think there's a recipe for actually getting a job in the industry. I will tell you two different approaches that I've seen work. So there's the approach that most people use, which is finish the university, and during the university, as I said, they know what they want to do, so they do internships, and they focus on getting hired when they finish the school. And most of them actually continue their contract at the end of the last year, the fourth year in internship. This is what I've seen done. Now I'm going to tell you probably the answer you actually want, is how I did it and how you can do it otherwise than this. And I think it's not a straight answer. It's a multiple factors that come into play. So I don't know if you actually watched the mock interviews from CMI. They're absolutely great, and they actually offered me a lot of insight into what HR thinks. And I thank you guys for that. But so one of the things that a recruiter looks at, and I'm saying a recruiter because one of my things that I do in my job is help recruit by interviewing candidates, and I've seen a lot of them. And let me tell you, out of 50 people I've seen in the past 3 months, only one got hired, and they were all lacking one thing. And this is number one on my list, which I think is most important. Guys, you don't need to know the definition in the book. You don't need to know it. There's Google for that. And probably, obviously, you need to know the basics, but nobody's going to ask you to code by heart and to type in the exact syntax. There are some exceptions, but that's not the point. I think the most important aspect is for you guys to try and think about the solution to the questions logically. Don't try and, oh my God, I forgot the definition. I forgot what let's say object-oriented programming is, what encapsulation is. I don't know the definition. So I started learning, and I learned a lot of technical stuff. And I thought I knew how to write a program, but actually you need practice, you need hands-on practice, which leads us, as I said, to point number 2, which is, guys, find something you're passionate about and make a software for it. Somehow build the software version of your passion, or something like, it can be a calendar, it can be anything. I did an flight booking software. That was my first project, actually, because I love flying. And that's the advice that somebody actually gave me, to take something that you enjoy and you're going to find an idea to code it. So code as many things as you can in your free time and put them on GitHub. Third thing, you need to know and to meet a lot of programmers, because they're the actual people who are going to talk to HRs and tell them, like, or other people, and tell them, like, look, I know a person, I know you're looking for this job, here's a CV. It's sort of like applying on a job site, only it's actual human interaction. And there are multiple ways to do this. There's a site, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Meetups. So what I did when I was actually at the beginning, I subscribed to a lot of meetups. For example, I love Angular, so I signed up to a lot of meetups regarding Angular. I got to know a lot of people, and that helped me get the job, or actually get my name known in the Angular professional branch. Fourth, and this is not actually an explanation, I feel like adding this because I don't want to. I think it's fair for you guys to know that programming is not something that you can do if you don't have perseverance, if you quit easily. You have to be strong, because I still have moments when I feel like smashing the keyboard over my monitor. I swear. The only reason I'm not doing it is because it's not my monitor, it's from the company that hired me, so I don't want to pay it. I think what helped me a lot, to summarize this question and move on to the next one, is the 3 things I told you about. And the most important thing, which is something that you have here, is passion. You need to be passionate about this. I'm not saying you can't do it if you're not passionate, only it will seem much harder.
All right, sounds good. I think it's a good answer. You touched a lot on many things, and I'm sure many people found some parts of their experience in your experience as well. Now, okay, let's say I got hired, and another thing that came up a lot in the questions was, now I have a position, I'm working on a project, but I'm fed up with it. And how could I move on to something else? What's your advice on either going to a different project or quitting that job and trying to find another job? What would you say from your experience? What worked for you?
Again, I don't think there's a straight answer. Unfortunately, to these kind of questions, you don't have a recipe. But what I can say that works for absolutely everybody is try to find out what you want, and what that involves. So, for example, when I started programming, my kid was born, and he was really small, like young. He was like 3 or 4 months old when I started programming, and I knew that I have two ways of doing it: hardcore and learning as much as possible while holding a day job and spending time with my family, which is what I chose, which led to a lot of sleepless nights. And that's one way of doing it, but you need to know what it involves, and you need to be okay with what it involves, and I'll get to that part again soon. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way, where you just go to work and you learn everything on site, and if you learn something today, it's okay. If you don't, not. This version works. I see a lot of people that do it. I work with a lot of people that do it, but that's not gonna take you to where probably you want to be, where you have technical mastery, where you're one of the best in the domain. For that, you need a lot of work. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're trying to make a decision if you want to change jobs or not, or how to change jobs, or what to do, you need to decide what's good for you. And now I'm going to give you an example. I always searched for interesting projects which somehow helped me develop in the rhythm and direction that I wanted, which is fast forward. And they came with a lot of sacrifice, which means a lot of time spent. Actually, Andrei told you guys that we work together. I don't know if he told you that we were working 16 hours a day together, every single day for 6 months or something. So it's not something easy. It's not something that you're gonna say, I want to do it if you're not passionate. That's why I'm saying there are two ways. You can do it the old-fashioned way if you just want to, well, advance at a certain point and get to somewhere. But if you want to be dedicated, if you want to be good, and I'm sure that all of you here want that, because otherwise you wouldn't have been here, then you need to dedicate a lot of time to be dedicated into what you're doing. And now to answer the actual question, because I know I talk a lot, this is the way I am. If you feel like you're not learning anything else at your job, whatever that else, something else is, you need to change it. That's the only advice I can give you. If you're not learning anything, it's one wasted day. One day that you'll have to work to get where you want to be.
Well, good summary. I remember those days when we were working on that project, 16 hours a day. I wouldn't say it's advisable, though. To be honest, I wouldn't say it's something. I know this is live and is recorded and it's gonna go into the wild, and probably someone is gonna hear that. Oh, to be a good programmer, you need to spend 16 hours a day nonstop, flat out coding. But it sometimes it takes that. I'll give you that. But I think it's important to say that you need to keep you healthy as well.
That's why I said that it's actually their decision, what they want and how they want to achieve it. There are two ways I'm trying my best to explain that there are two ways: hard work and a lot of sleepless nights, or balanced, and well, it takes much longer, obviously.
Well, you mentioned something interesting. You said balanced. Third question on the list is, how do I achieve work-life balance? I want to see that, given that we just said, if you want to be good, basically you need to work flat out 16 hours a day. Let's see if we can get a work-life balance.
So, to be honest, I didn't really have a lot of work-life balance in that period. I somehow managed it because I scheduled everything really tightly in the calendar. And if I had like a date night, I would go to that date. I wouldn't miss it for the world. And I think that's one of the key things. If you have one of these hectic schedules, note everything down on a calendar, and that calendar is the thing that tells you what you do and how you live your life. But I guess I didn't feel those 16 hours as work, because I spent my time with some wonderful people, and I learned a lot of things, which made me the person I am today. And I'm not talking only I'm not talking only professionally, but personally. And I bonded with some wonderful people and created some nice friendships. I know it sounds a little cheesy, but I
It
think
is a
that's
bit
the
cheesy.
key. I didn't really feel it was work. I was doing it out of passion and because I didn't want to fail.
I remember that because do you remember when we were in a call and you just realized your in-laws were visiting you? I remember you were telling us that. It's like, oh, okay, work-life
Yeah,
balance, Vlad. Work-life balance.
yeah. Well, yeah, so that was something that I did, and it taught me a very valuable lesson that I need to start to try to get a work-life balance situation, which I think I'm handling much better now. I have actually 2 hours a day when I'm not doing anything besides stuff that make me happy and relax me because the whole 16 hours a day led me to burnout. And by the way, burnouts are not a myth, they actually exist. So uh, to answer the question again, I don't think that I can actually tell you a recipe for work-life balance. I think what you need to know is that you need it. You need work-life balance and you need to find something that works for you.
Yeah, it does. It's hard though. I mean, I don't think there is a recipe.
No, there isn't.
That's
I don't
that's
think there
the
is.
that's the thing. It's mainly what works for everyone. And one thing I found it's helpful is to find something to disconnect. I mean, even if it's like 1 hour a day or half an hour a day, if you find some activity that takes you away from what you're doing, I think you're in a much better place than just working nonstop and coding nonstop.
So I'm
Cool.
actually gonna ask chat to tell me what they do to relax, and obviously to start asking questions because I'm looking at the chat and it's empty. We
Yeah,
really don't
I
have any
just got the
questions.
first question, so I'm gonna congratulate the first person, actually, the first courageous person to ask us something. Cool. The question goes like, when do I know I'm ready to start an internship or a junior dev position?
So you want the formal answer, the interview answer, or you want my answer? And that's actually a real question. And I would love it if you can write in chat which one you want, or if you want both, you can also say that.
Both. Let's start with the
Both.
official
Okay.
one. Politically
Okay.
correct diplomatic answer, please.
Okay. Politically correct and diplomatic answer. So there's a difference between entry level and junior. Entry level means that you know how to program, but you're not independent. Junior means that you can do independent tasks, but very, very simple tasks. Component scoped, not project scoped. I hope I didn't lose you there with this formal explanation as Andrei told me. But the unofficial part is whenever you feel ready. If you feel that you can do one of those projects I told you on GitHub, then I think you're ready to do it. If you actually are able to start a project and finish it, no matter how long it takes you, no matter how bad the code is, as long as it works, I think you're ready to start interviewing for a job.
How do you handle rejection? I think that would be a good follow-up. Is you feel you're ready, and then what if a lot of people say no? What's your advice on that?
That actually happened to me a lot. My first job, I had to change cities because nobody in Bucharest would hire me. As I said, no technical background, nothing that can prove that I know programming. I got a lot of rejections and it felt bad. But sometimes it could feel discouraging. But I think you guys should take the good side of it and try to note down during the interview the questions that you didn't know the answers to and go online and read about them. I think that's the best thing you can do after an interview.
Like
Research
use it as an educational experience, basically.
Exactly. I think that's the best thing you can do.
Cool. We have a second question. We're getting there.
I
We're
see
starting
it.
to kick it now.
Cool.
Okay, so what prior knowledge do you think is core before you start programming? I know you've done a lot of things, from being a bartender to owning a bar and all the things that you've mentioned. What is, if you would be to pick the core strengths and skill set that you would need before starting out as a programmer, what would it be?
That's the hardest question anybody asked me, because I don't think there's, again, a recipe. For me, it was determination and perseverance, because more than anything, I'm not saying other things don't matter. I'm just saying there will be a lot of moments for you guys where when you code and you're stuck and you feel like smashing something. Obviously, the smashing is the key word. You need to move over that, to take a break and to move forward. And for that, you need to be very strong and not quit. And as Andre actually asked before, when you get a rejection, don't take it personal, go and learn. So no matter the negative things that are thrown at you, you need to turn it into something positive, or just get something, you transform it into something positive.
And what about knowledge? I think that's
knowledge.
Is there any knowledge? Because this is, look, I get this a lot when we do the interview series with people. A lot of the things that I see with those series is that people think being a programmer requires, you can't be a programmer if you don't have a checklist. It's like a checklist of knowledge and things you need to know. And until you finish checking all of them, you can't call yourself a programmer. Is there such thing, or what's your view on it? I believe it doesn't exist.
From my perspective, no, it doesn't exist. Like, what can you put on that checklist? No Java, check. No unit testing, check. No, there's no such recipe. I learned unit testing 5 months ago. I didn't know how to unit test until 5 months ago. So there's not a recipe. I think what you need to do is not stop trying to find the checklist, stop trying to find a list of things to do and start coding. That's my best advice for anybody who wants to start coding. Grab your keyboard and start typing. Doesn't matter what, doesn't matter if it works, doesn't matter if you copy paste Google, start working, start coding, and you're gonna see that in 1 month you're not gonna recognize your initial code. You're gonna look at it and you're gonna be, oh my God, I wrote this, I can't believe it. I feel that all the time.
Well, following up from this, I think it's another question we just got now. And I tend to agree with Sherban on this. Sometimes, and I think we're looking at this interviewing question from a different perspective. You know, big companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. Right? They have a very hardcore algorithmic and algorithms and data structure interview. That type of interview with all the tech companies out there. And a lot of people are asking this, and Sherban is one of them. Do you need to be an expert on algorithms and data structures and all the other hardcore computer science stuff when you go to an interview? Or you just need to kind of know enough and understand the principles so you can apply it, and if needed, research and build on top of that knowledge?
That's actually a question which I have an answer for, because I had a discussion with a friend of mine 2 weeks ago. He declined the job at Google. Crazy, right? And I asked him what the interview was. He's a junior, I have to add. Well, his mind is not that of a junior, but his years are of a junior, unfortunately. And he had to take an algorithm test, and he passed it, and it was all okay. So yeah, if you want to go to Google, Amazon, Facebook, those big five, you do need to learn algorithmics, because that's something that they actually have in the interviewing process. But besides those companies, of which one I know an example of, all the other interviews I've ever participated on did not have a written test. The closest thing to a written test was to actually make a small solution that, I don't know, with 1 or 2 pages for me, because I like front end and I usually apply for front end jobs. But other than that, there were more logical questions, open-ended questions. You guys need to think, to show that you can take a task, understand the task, put those technical mumbo jumbo into something that a kid can understand. Tell that to Google, and Google will give you the answer 9 times out of 10. you're going to find the code for what you need on Google or on GitHub or Stack Overflow or somewhere. Somebody in this world had that code written and it's tested and it works. I'm not saying you shouldn't write original code. I'm just saying that we want, when we have an interview, we want to see that you guys understand what you're talking about. I had a lot of people telling me a lot of technical things like what's solid or the principles of VOP, and they literally told me the definition from the manual. And I asked them a logical question regarding them, and they didn't know how to answer it. That's what we're looking for. At least that's what I am looking for.
I think a lot of companies are looking for someone that understands and can do things. I think it's, yeah, I agree. You need to know it. I mean, we can't deny and say, oh, you don't need to know any algorithms or data structures. It's kind of understood that you need to know it. But then the core of your job is not going to be algorithms and data structures. It's going to be something completely different. And I have another question. Let me read it, sorry. So I'll just read it because it's too long. So it's like, if I want to follow a technical career path, like a developer or software engineer, how can I find out what it is all about? Like practical work-wise, not job description or other ads you see around.
So that's one of the things I think personally, and Andrei is gonna probably not agree with me because I have a very strong opinion on this and he knows it. Unfortunately, the job descriptions are bullshit. Sorry for the French, I can't say it anywhere else. Job descriptions are bullshit. You don't do what it says in the job descriptions. It says you need 5 years of Angular, you don't. You need to show them that you know how to think, that you understand what they want from you. Nobody's gonna even verify if you have 5 years. They can't even verify if you have them, but that's not what I'm saying. They're gonna say that you're gonna maintain the code, extend the code, all technical mumbo jumbo. Basically what you're gonna do is get to work, get into daily meeting if you're Scrum, or even if you're not Scrum, then you're gonna find another daily meeting. Spend like 1 or 2 hours a day in meetings and then code. That's your job. And what will you code? Everything that they ask you, unfortunately. And you can have an input in what you're gonna code, which is give proactive feedback regarding the business requirements, but that depends on you. Other than that, I heard promises that the specifications from business won't change. In every single job I've worked, they changed every time. I heard that we're not gonna change specification during an active sprint. For those of you who don't know, a sprint is a period of a determined period of time between usually 2 weeks and 3 weeks, where you have to do something, you have to deliver something. And they usually set that deliverable at the beginning of the sprint, and at the end you have to deliver it. And in theory, it doesn't have to change, because if it changes, then you lose 1 week of development. It's a long story short. What job descriptions say is not what the job is all about. The job is all about you, your keyboard, your monitor, and coding. That's what this job is all about. You and your passion. At least it is for me.
I think it's for everyone going into this field. It's kind of the bottom line. That's pretty much why we start doing it. Everything else comes in the package, right? Cool. We have time. I think. Oh, we're 1 minute over. But I think we can answer one more question if you have the time, Vlad.
Yeah, of course.
And then we can wrap up. So you guys, if you have one last question you want to ask Vlad. Okay, now I need to pick. We have 2 questions.
I'm okay to answer both.
Okay, we'll answer both. I think first one would be, how do you network effectively with other people in the business now that we can meet live? So, like before, we can go out for beers and drinks and stuff, but now what do we do?
That was one of the biggest challenges I faced, because I'm a very sociable person, if that's the word. And I think that a team needs to be built on trust. And I'm saying this because you build trust very hard over the internet. You can do it but it's pretty hard. So to answer this question, how to network effectively while other coders with other coders while everything gone virtual. I've did online peer sessions. I've did online coding sessions. I've did basically just interacting to your fellow colleagues, just talking to them about random stuff while you're coding. He has an issue, you help him. I think now that this pandemic locked us in, we have to socialize even more to compensate that. So what I do and what I do with my colleagues all the time, we always code together. Even if I'm doing something and he's doing something else, we like to talk about it. We like to, hey, I have this problem, even though he's working on something else. Hey, I have this problem. What do you feel about it? How would you do it? And he's giving you an answer, maybe an idea that you wouldn't have thought by yourself. Exactly like if you were at the office. We actually have a Discord server and we kind of chat all day. Work-based, obviously, and not only.
Yeah.
So
I think in our case, we adjusted well, to be honest. We would just go live and code and just leave the mic on, and whatever happened. It was kind of, but I think that was a special case. Not, maybe you can't do it all the time. For us, it was.
I'm sure it's not an absolute recipe, but at my current project I'm doing, I did the same thing, and actually, it turned the team from individuals who coded to a team that codes, and I think that's the key. Exactly, that's the key. So socializing is the key for a team, and you guys are gonna see, and for most of you probably know that it's easier to do something if somebody's actually doing it with you.
I mean, that's ideal, right? We have this myth that we're not sociable, and we don't like to talk to people. But I think a lot of the people I met in the let's say IT world, most of them are very sociable. I mean, sometimes you just want to get rid of them. At some point, you kind of say, like, get away, I need to do some work. Stop.
I'm that person. I'm sorry, guys. I'm that person.
Just leave me alone. 5 minutes, please. Shut up. Cool. Now we've got 2 more questions and we're gonna end. First is, what do you have to do to get an interview if you're coming from another field?
So again, we turn back to the 3 things, which I'll summarize because, well, we're kind of out of time, but I will say this. So first of all, when an HR is looking at you, most of the time they're going to be looking at your LinkedIn profile. Personally, I don't own a CV. I've never sent a, well, no, actually I did make a CV lately, but for something else. I did not have a CV, and most recruiters contacted me on LinkedIn. So my first advice to you is get endorsements from friends, from people that are coders, from people that are HR, from, well, pretty much anybody in this field. Get endorsements, have a solid LinkedIn profile, because that's the only way that a recruiter can choose. They have like magic words that they search for, keywords, and then there's the bunch of stuff online which you can research about how to have a proper LinkedIn. There's no point in having a course about that right now. And that usually gets you a discussion with HR. So from HR to actually having a technical discussion, it's optional, but it's very good practice to have some personal projects on GitHub, on a public GitHub, and link it on LinkedIn, because that way the technical recruiter can, when he's filtering the CVs, the LinkedIn profiles, or whatever you want to call them, we're going to look if you do have or you don't have some personal project, because we want to see not necessarily if you're good or bad, but where you're situated in the seniority, you get the point, in the seniority. If you're junior, if you're middle, if you're senior, maybe you don't have any programming experience, but you know how to code as a middle. It is possible. I've seen it. And so the LinkedIn, the GitHub, knowing some people who know people in this industry really helps, because people who know people who work in companies, IT companies, because most of them get a fee if they recommend somebody that gets hired. So it's a win-win situation. If you have a friend or a friend of a friend who works in this domain, you can give him the CV, and they're going to recommend you. And generally, it's a bigger chance that you get called for an interview than the alternative of actually being fished off LinkedIn or actually applying to a job. And last but not least, you can take a lot of classes, specialized classes, technical classes. But I say technical with but try to find classes that teach the technical aspects, but also answer your questions. Like literally, the trainer listens to you and answers your questions. And if they don't have an answer, they can research it, and they actually help you on. If you want, it's sort of a mentorship while you're doing the course. That's, I think, what the best type of training is. Training with a few people where the teacher can actually pay attention to you and mentor you. I think that's how you get an initial interview if you come from a different domain. And last but not least, but the most important one, is do not quit. If you get rejected 30 times, your 31 time is going to be a charm. Don't quit. Never quit.
I think the rejection part is not, you don't get rejected. You learn something. I think if you look at it as something you learn, it's like I didn't get rejected 50 times. I had 50 free opportunities to learn something new. It changes perspective a little bit. It makes you feel not as bad, right?
Yeah, agreed. I did not have this perspective, and it really looks grimmer if you think about it. If you think about it like a rejection and not as a learning experience. You're right.
Yes, I think this is it. I think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about how you network and then how you go into this field if you come from a different field. It's basically how you make those bad HR people look at you when you're not from the field and you're an outsider. But I think you touched on that quite well, and really good discussion. And thank you, Vlad. I would like to, and thank you everyone for participating. This was our first event. We're gonna try to do these events every week on different themes and different topics. Next one will be next Thursday, same time. But we're gonna switch a bit gears and talk about machine learning and data science and how you can get into that field. It's pretty much a roadmap to how you can get into the field. So thank you everyone for being a part of this. Thank you, Vlad. And hope to see you next time.
Yeah, personally, I'll be there because I like to learn. I want to learn a lot about machine learning. You taught me a lot, and thank you guys for coming. I hope I didn't bore you to death, but thank you for listening.
And one last thing, sorry. If you have any other questions, don't be afraid. You can contact us either from the website or on LinkedIn. Just drop us an email or a message, and we're gonna answer them because I know the time is short. And we're gonna also redirect them to Vlad if there is anything specific for him.
Guys, yeah, that's actually a very good thing. I'm glad you said it. Please ask me any question. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Vlad Cristea. You can find me in the group. I'm the Aaron person that they've been advertising about. Ask me any question, anytime. I mean it. Any question, anytime. Send me a message. I'm gonna answer to each and every one of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Bye.